Welcome, guys, to another episode, Florida Hockey Bros podcast. Why are you
What
laughing, man?
depressing ass
Why are you
intro.
laughing?
Look
Well, the
at you.
Panthers lost. This is a funeral.
I'm
Right.
zen, man. I'm feeling zen today.
Anyway, Panthers lose 4-1. I guess they got shut out last night. Really, um, I was at the game,
Man,
and
stop going to games.
well,
Like
the
for
last
real.
one they won. Last time
Did
I
they?
went, I think it was against the Hurricanes. That was a
Okay.
pretty good game. The one before that they lost as well. That was against the Canucks. So that was
Man,
the
that was,
beginning of the
yeah, but
year.
don't go to the games against bad opponents. They don't show up for those games, man.
The Panthers.
Yeah.
Well, they show up. I mean, they've been
They
good
didn't,
at home,
they
but
didn't show up against the Kraken, was it? No, I guess that was on the road. I don't
no, that
remember.
was on the road. No, they haven't really had a bad loss at home. Like they didn't play that well against the Blue Jackets, but they won, and I think Chicago was at home as well when we won.
Nah, but our home record is kind of mid. It's not great.
Yeah, home record's not.
I mean, we have lost against like I think Boston or whatever, Vancouver, like some good teams, but
it's not as good as it should be. Yeah, let's get into the game last night. There were some stuff that was kind of weird. Yeah, we were very unlucky. Panthers had 15 high danger chances, and the Blues had 5. So there's two stats there. That's one, and the other one was the expected goals. It was 3.77 for the Panthers. And they scored none because that goal off the glass should have counted anyway. And the Blues were barely over a goal expected. I thought Bob was okay. One of the goals, the second goal, both the offside goal and then the goal that followed it, the backhand, I think it was, that was pretty bad. I don't know what it is with Bob and like backhands or just movement. Like you move around him and he goes down to the ice, to the ground. And yeah, Barkov was right there in front of the net. Statistically, Barkov had a bad game, but that was because he was on the ice for like two of the 3 goals. Yeah, I thought that the team just played really sloppy. Once they got to the second period, they just, even the offside goal that was called back, Montour comes up the ice, makes a terrible pass to I don't know who, straight to the other team. I think all 3 forwards were right there at the blue line. They take it back. There's only one Panther back. Kachuk barely skates back. He just kind of glides back into the zone. Montour comes, skating back pretty hard, and Blues pass it around, and they score, and it was called back. But that was just an example of some of the bad play that the Panthers did last night. It was very weird to watch them play so undisciplined. Anyway, what did you see? What do you want to talk about? I know that excuse me. I know that Maurice had some comments post game. I don't know if you want to start with that. We can go from there.
Yeah, man. I think Maurice seemed pretty pissed, and I think a lot of it has to do with just trying to play a rush game, which is what he said. And I think psychologically, what I think it's happening is, they got all these chances in the first period. They hit the post a bunch of times that they should have been up by a couple goals at least. And it's bad luck, bad breaks, pucks not going in, some of the shooting quality not being there, et cetera, like all these things, right? Like one of the goals, like we had a clear chance in front of the net, don't score or whatever, and then it goes the other way and they get a tip, like a weird ass tip, like with the stick on the back, and like it goes down between Bud's legs or whatever. So I think the team, I think the team is feeling the pressure because of the lack of scoring. I think the players know it. And I think yesterday when they had all those chances and it didn't go in, they thought they needed to change the game, and they started to play a rush game, trying to create offense and trying to score. And of course, when you do that against a team like the Blues are quick and have skill, they do have the skill. And they fire their coach because they expect to be better given the team that they have. You don't put it in the net like the way Tampa did. Tampa went up like 5-0 on them, right? You put them away, and then that kind of team might give up and then stop playing. But we didn't do that. And so we started to really turn it over, and it looked bad. I mean, it was everybody. Forsling had a bad turnover. Montour had a bad turnover. Barkov had a bad game. That's 2 games in a row for him where he hasn't been good. And he and Reinhardt are sort of really, really holding the sticks tight now and trying to get fancy when they need to simplify the game. I do think there's a little bit going on of Rodriguez just not being the kind of quality winger you need. Like, he was hot early on, but if you look at the way his points have played out, he goes a lot of games without points for a first liner, and that's not good. And he's just not an elite player. You know, he's a third liner. I think middle 6 guy that in a pinch, maybe you put on the second line if Verhaeghe's not having it, and you put Verhaeghe on the third. That's the kind of team you need. So that's why I think he had to change the first line yesterday, try to get something going. But yeah, he said it was or the bad turnovers. He said, I didn't even care about the scoring because we did have the chances. And yeah, bad luck and puck not going in and all that. But what he's not allowing and he doesn't want the team to sort of do is open up and play this rush game, because yeah, it will kill you in the playoffs. I mean, we didn't do that last year, even when we were down. We were down against Boston. We went down against Toronto, and we came back in those games by a goal or two. And the main reason was we didn't change our style. We kept playing it tight. We kept the game close. And then eventually you get your chance, your shot, and you take it. And then all of a sudden you're tying going to overtime. That's why we went to overtime so many times. So I totally get what he's saying. Like, he doesn't want to overemphasize the offense right now, given the game that I had. And the pregame, he talked about the offense a lot. And he said, yeah, we know we got to do more. He even talked about the personnel. I'm getting to know some of these guys. We don't know, I know they're going to make some moves. I think that this is a separate conversation for later in the video, but I want to talk about why Cito built the team this way this year and why he needs to change some of it now. But anyway, I just think that it's obvious that the team just had a brain fart as a team yesterday and try to open up the game and try to force it, because they are really, really struggling to score, and they feel this pressure. These are talented players, they want to be able to shoot and score and get a chance. And they had the chances, they didn't have to change anything. If they kept the, 0-0 game for a while, they didn't open up, they didn't give up those easy ass chances. St. Louis had nothing going. So keep them close, man. Just keep it tight. And then you get that first goal. Even if you're down 1-0, like, keep it tight. You can get that one goal. Maybe you get that off the glass lucky goal. You tie it, go to overtime, maybe put it away. But I get what Maurice is saying, and I think we just have to accept that we're not the Leafs, we're not Detroit, we don't have this like smooth skating, skill shooting players. We're not even the Sabres, who have been terrible. But last night you saw they could score if you give them the chances. St. Louis has the skill. Like, our best players are playmakers and slower players like Barkov and Kachuk and stuff. And even Verhaeghe is not an elite player. So we just have to accept that we're never going to be that team. And the way that we scored last year was in bunches, was in like tips in front of the net, and like that kind of play, the power play really being good. None of that is going right now. The power play is not good. We didn't even get any chances yesterday, which I think speaks to the lack of battle. Like, people don't realize it. They say, well, why don't the Leafs get more power plays? Because they have the skill. The skill doesn't draw the penalty. The penalty usually is drawn on the boards, trying to battle, trying to win in the puck battle, and then the guy has to grab you, has to hook you, has to trip you usually. That's why penalties in other areas of the ice are called bad penalties. You don't take a penalty in the neutral zone. So all to say that yesterday we didn't try, man. We didn't fight. And, I mean, we did early on. We went to the front of the net. We had all these chances, and then we stopped. And so, yeah, I think he said it's going to be a short video thing, and not in a good way. Like, he says most video sessions are 3 to 4 hours. We're trying to pick like the little spot. This one, there are 3 examples, and he said, like, it's not going to be good language. And, and so anyway, this Christmas break coming up might be a good thing in a way. Like, even if we lose on Saturday, might be good for the team to sort of get away mentally and then come back and then see if there's a way we can find a groove again. But right now the team's really mentally like struggling because of that road trip and the lack of scoring, and they're trying to do the solutions the wrong way. We don't have the makeup of the team to play a rush game right now. We don't have the skill for that, and the chemistry for that. So yeah, man, it just sucks. It just sucks that, I'll stop there. There's good news about it, like, silver lining, but yeah, last night was just one of the worst games of the season. I think it's up there with that Kraken game on the road, and then the other game at home. I think it was against the Jets, so whoever that we didn't show up for. I think it was the Jets game after Thanksgiving. Yeah, it was terrible. Those are the 3 worst games. Yeah.
Yeah, the Islanders as well. We couldn't come back. Yeah, the comebacks are having to come back as a struggle for the team, and it's due to the lack of scoring and just skill and being able to just kind of change the game in a couple of minutes. Yeah, I thought they had a good period, a good first period. Same with the Calgary game. Like I thought the Panthers had a ton of energy. The effort was there. It was just the turnovers. We've had some weird turnovers the last few games that are not typical for this team, and not especially on the Maurice. So I definitely do think that the players are just feeling the pressure and they're trying to make things happen. Um, there was no reason to change our game yesterday at all. You know, once they called back that offside goal, um, we should have just kept playing our game. Even if you go into the third down a goal, that's fine. But you got to give yourself a chance. And then there was the third period. In the third period, the game was pretty much over. You can kind of feel it in the building. There was a packed house too. It was just a shame. Yeah, typically when games like this happen, and especially now that they've lost, I think 5 out of their last 6, it's normal to kind of start to panic or whatever. But it's also like we don't want to overreact, but it's clear that something is missing or something is off. You know, it's up to the coaching staff to figure that out and for Cito to make any moves that could benefit the team. But I do think that it's become a trend all the way from last year. We have way too many games like this, way too many games like Calgary, way too many games like the first Canucks game at home. We just have way too many of those games where we either can't come back or we just can't score. We waste all our chances in the first period, and then that's it. The game is over for us. Barkov talked about playing a full 60 or whatever, and I think that's just cliche stuff. Like, you don't have to play a full 60. No team plays a full 60 ever. It never happens. Like, teams don't play a full 60. It's impossible. You're a human being. You're going to be tired. You just have to take advantage of that one period or those 2 periods. That's what the Lightning do. That's what a lot of these teams do. They just take advantage of the one good period. Anyway, yeah, beyond the game, I do think, and we'll get into what we would do if we had the power to maybe make some trades or call ups. I know we agree and disagree on some of that stuff, but if you want, we can get into that now. Yeah, I thought that once you call up like Sourdif, just play him a couple of games. I don't get, like, I understand why they did it, but then call up someone else. Don't call up Sourdif or Mackie if just in case. Don't you call up those guys if they're gonna play. That's the way I feel about that. I get that it's just playing time, but like, why can't Sourdif or Mackie play for Lockwood? Why is it Lockwood?
Well, before we get into the trace, man, I think this actually is a conversation that we haven't talked about as much, but it's the team makeup, like what Cito put together this year. We had the same conversation last year, and the reason why we struggle early on too, and the kinds of players that, like, the cap didn't allow us to make any big changes. And then the whole thing was like, we didn't make any trades, and then Duclair came in, and that was our add to our wing. We lost Duclair in a trade and replaced him with a 4th liner who's even been scratched because Gadus kind of took his spot.
Well, kind of, but we really replaced Duclair with Rodriguez.
I mean, we did. I guess you could say that. That is true, but it still feels to me, when you look at the makeup of the team, like there are a lot of big holes. Like, we haven't really replaced that sort of scoring winger sort of thing we have with Marchment and Duclair. Like, Rodriguez is putting up a lot of assists, is not scoring a lot of goals. And so, and Duclair is a guy that can play in your top line and your top 6 because of the speed and the skill. I feel like Rodriguez, it's a better two-way player, but he works better when you plug him into certain spaces. He's got to be patchwork for the top 6, not like, and that's what he's been in Pittsburgh and Colorado, to be clear. He's played, everybody's like, he played with McKinnon, he played with Crosby, but people don't realize he was not a permanent first liner. And also, if you look at the numbers he put up for a first liner, those numbers are not good. Those numbers are good for like a third liner, right? Like, he's a high-end third liner, like we would hoping Lusty would be this year. And so I think to me, the part that we have to understand, and the reason why maybe they're not bringing up the kids yet, is I'm assuming, and teams work this way, they've given themselves a certain amount of time to figure out the team and to figure out these players. They need to make decisions on these players. They need to make decisions on who they're going to trade, who they're going to keep. Most of these guys are 1 year rentals. You can trade some of them away to other teams. You can decide who's going to be your depth person for the playoffs. They need to evaluate that. And it takes time. You need to see the ebbs and flows. You need to see how they play when we struggle. You need to see how they play when you're hot, their best and their worst, and how they fit into the culture of the team, into the locker room, how they respond. That takes time. And I'm assuming that we're not halfway into the season yet. Maybe they said after the holidays, maybe they say halfway. I think they just want to really play these guys. They'd rather play Lawrence and Gadjevich or whatever. And the reason they bring a Lockwood is the issue right now, like, again, we keep saying this, like, I know that the instinct is to want to see something different. And we think of Sourdif and Mackie as being more offensive. But, like, they didn't score last night for the Checkers. They had an okay game, but they didn't have a great game. That's going to happen to the kids. They're going to ebb and flow. Their line was broken up with McAllister yesterday because they didn't get it going. So they're not going to be the saviors. Like, if Sourdif or Mackie are going to be the difference, the team is in trouble. Like, you have a team that won't get shit done in the playoffs. So I don't think that they're going to do that this year. I think they've committed for them to develop. And I think that is the right call. We will need them for sure next year because of the cap. Like, there's no way around it. With the extensions coming up, like, there was no extensions this year outside of Lusty, and that was $3 million. But now you have Lundell. Now you have Reinhardt. Now you have all these other guys, Montour and Forsling. They're not going to be cheap if you want to keep 2 or 3 of them. So you're going to have to play the kids, right? And maximize the ELCs. So I think that the reason they bring up Lockwood is they just need to plug in a fourth liner. And don't do that to Sourdif. He's going to play 7 minutes tonight. He's not going to learn shit. He's not going to provide much. You can put him on the third line for Cousins. But is he going to all of a sudden break things open for you? Probably not. And Sourdif is not ready to play in the playoffs yet for us in a reliable way. You need to see a season in the NHL for the kids first to build them up to the playoffs. So I understand the logic behind that, as frustrating as it is. And I think you only bring up the kids when your team stinks. Like, if you're out of the playoffs and you're like, this team stinks, then you trade guys, you scratch them, you play the kids, you let them develop, and you just give up on the season, and that's okay. But that's not nearly where we are. So that part of it, I don't necessarily agree with. And at times I've said, I want to see them. Like, I would like to see Sourdif on the third line, right? But for like a game or two, just to see what it looks like. But I don't know that he's a long-term solution. I'd rather see a trade. I think Cousins need to be scratched and needs to be traded. I think that Steno has really cooled off. He's become a minus player at 5-on-5. He's great on the penalty kill, but not on 5-on-5. Not providing we need. Lomberg is having a down year after having a great season last year. He's not been good. He's been a minus player as well lately and had some bad turnovers. So, we need to figure that out. So my take is this. Cito overreacted to the finals loss, as all GMs do, a little bit. We were smaller and hurt, and he said, I need to get big guys. So he got Lawrence, he got Stenlin, he got Gadjevich. Stack up the fourth line, get some big bodies in there, keep Cousins, keep Lomberg, the feisty guys. Like 50% of our team is 4-liners, like feisty guys. Bring a 2-way player in, Rodriguez. Get Lustrane, who plays on the boards. Like, that's what he decided to do. And you can't really do that because you may not even face Vegas ever again in the playoffs, right? Like in the finals. And they're a very unique team. Their size is just kind of unique. And that team's makeup is not going to last once the contracts come up. Like Stevenson, they're going to lose him because they can probably pay him. So, and the other thing that he did is he stuck up the defense because we needed bodies because, we had Montour and Ekblad out. So the makeup of the team is way off. Like, it's just now once you have everybody back, man, half of your forwards are fourth liners. And your defense, you have too many defense men. Mahura is not even playing. Like, are you going to keep Mahura? Are you going to develop him? Are you going to trade him? What are you going to do? Because Kulikov is not a long-term answer. Even OEL, if you, the only way I keep OEL is for 2 to 3 years at like $4 million at most for like my third pair. So I do think that they need to make some moves and they need to retool the team to make it a little bit more offensive in the front and and then decide at the back who's staying for the playoffs and who's staying long term for us. And yeah, man, at this point, Forsling is the one guy I think is a must sign. He's third in the league at plus 19. He's like an incredible two-way player.
Yeah.
You got to keep Forsling. He's the youngest one of all the defensemen.
I think you
But
keep him long term.
Montour and Reinhardt, if they want too much money, I'm okay. I'm okay moving on. There are guys out there that you can get. You can get some guys out there that replace them for sure.
Yeah, Montour's trying way too hard. I understand. It's a contract year for him. He probably wishes he could have started the season healthy. He wants to score. He wants to get the most value he can get in the open market. I
It's
think
working against them right now.
Yeah, I think that, if
Ekblad has been way better.
Yeah, well, Ekblad has been sitting. That's another thing,
He's
right?
plus 6. Ekblad's been great with Forsling.
That's another thing. Like, our defense hasn't really provided offense either. We have no offense from anywhere other than the top two lines. Our second line last night was probably our best line, and I think they moved Kachuk to the first line in the second period.
Yeah.
And Cousins was with the fourth line at some point. I don't look. You can change the lines. You can do all this stuff. I think it's clear that they need to make a move. I understand what you're saying about a trade. It's not that simple. You got to get a team to play with you. You got to get a team to be willing to give up whatever it is that you need. And then you have to give them what they're asking for. So that's tricky. That's something that's going to take time. That's not going to develop overnight. So hopefully, Cito has already been in talks and he's been looking around the league and setting things up. That makes sense. I understand you don't want to rush Mackie and Sourdif, and they're not going to break the game for you, but it's something different than what you're doing right now. And if they are the future, and if they are going to come in next season, then just bring them up. Bring them up for a stretch of 10 games and see if they can adapt. If you have to kind of decide what you want to be, last season, Cito said that he owed it to the guys to keep the team together at the deadline. Didn't make any moves. He could have traded Gudas and got a lot of stuff back because Gudas is a very valuable playoff defenseman. So I do think that there's a view there that I don't know if it's just the fact that Maurice is the coach and you have to get a certain type of player to fit in. But that kind of bothers me. That's starting to bother me because the reason why the team is constructed this way, even though there's restrictions with the cap, is because they want these type of players. And you made a really great point on getting these big guys, Stenlin and Lorentz and Mikola, even though he's worked out, and try to maybe add size and depth because we were so injured during the playoffs. But no depth player is going to come in the playoffs and win you the cup. So I am kind of surprised that they haven't made a trade yet, even just to open up the cap or to get a pick back, because we have way too many defensemen. Trade one of the young kids or trade Balinskis. I don't know. But try to open up things so that you can get a forward, get someone. If you don't want to bring on Mackie and Sourdif, get a forward with experience. Get an older guy that's cheap right now. There's a couple out there. You can make a trade, get Foligno or something. I don't know. Like there are things that you could do to play your style like you want to play and get the results you need. We don't have the skill to score when we need it. And even if what Maurice is saying is true, and it is, you have to play your game. You can't get, sloppy or try to go in the rush and all that stuff. You can't force it. What else are you going to do? Because they've played their game against, there's 5-6 games where they stay composed and play their game and they can't score. So I do think that you don't have to get desperate or anything like that, but you have to change something. You have to.
Yeah. You have to remember. You have to look where you are. Like that's the whole point. Like we are in a good position still. We're fortunate that the Atlantic it's really competitive right now. Where like we are still like a point ahead of Tampa with 2 games in hand. That's a good position to be against and we play Tampa soon. We are right there with Toronto, even though they have a couple games in hand. But we saw what happened yesterday with the defense. Samsonov is a mess. Wall's going to be out for another month at least. Like that with Toronto is going to be interesting to follow because their defense and their goaltending is, and I don't buy that Martin Jones is the answer. And then Red Wings are spiraling right now. They might come back a little bit, but I've never thought they were this good. And and Kane in there. I don't know that that helps the defense, and the defense is not great. So, I just think that you don't over panic because you still have that spot. You're still in the playoff spot. You still have some games in hand against people behind you. Carolina has had the same season as the Panthers are struggling, same amount of points, I think. The Devils are struggling. Some of these teams are going to either figure it out or kind of be a wild card fighter. Like the Penguins have underperformed based on their numbers. Their numbers are actually pretty strong. So, and they haven't panicked yet. Like, the smart teams, the well-run teams, it's frustrating. Like I also feel like I want change, and I do. If Cito could magically trade Cousins and a pick and get in a third liner who can give us better shooting, I would do that tomorrow. But like you said, that's not easy. Not every team wants to sell right away. They want to maximize return. And Cito that might not be his plan A. Maybe his plan A is to get Tarasenko at the deadline. Maybe his plan A is to go Adam Henrique or get Tyler Johnson and get them to retain half the salary, and he'll give up Cousins for a pick and a prospect. I mean, we have a window now. Like outside of the untouchables, you maybe don't trade Mackie, you don't trade Sourdif, you don't trade Sashin, but Vilmanis, Naus, like some of these prospects that are like kind of still have potential. Like if you have to move on from them, you do, because you still have all the guys coming up, and you can draft more, and you need to try to win now with this team. Like you got to win the next 5 years. And then if that doesn't work out, then you got Mackie and Sourdif and all that, already being more pros, ready to take on the next generation. But right now, and the Panthers are in a good spot, man, with Sashin, Devine, Davies, Sourdif, Mackie, Benning, Naus, Alcher. You might have a really strong foundation in 5 years. You might have a brand new team ready to go, and then you can decide what to do with Kachuk and Barkov, who stays and who goes. But this is the window, man. This team can win in the playoffs. They have a great system. I actually think Maurice is the right coach. He does care about offense, but in the playoffs, you do need the structure. Like Vegas had a strong structure and a deep-ass team, and they scored because they had that, not because they just were a flashy team. They were not the Leafs. They were not a flashy scoring team. Like Marchessault can put up 25, 30 goals. He's not a 50-goal scorer. You know what I'm saying? Like some of these guys are not. Like Eichel is the only like super skilled player on that team, honestly. But every line they put out there will smack you, and will go to the front of the net, and we shoot up high, and we try to score if you don't have a sound game. And so that is where we are. And look at Colorado. They don't have depth, and they're not looking great. I know they're winning games because of skill, like they did again yesterday, I think, but they don't look good, man. The bottom six is not great for them. The defense is not great. I mean, even Devon Tays was calling everybody out. So I think for now, Cito has to say, I'm still in the playoffs, not time to panic yet. If it gets to a point where this doesn't get corrected and it becomes an issue, it's a personal issue, and the room is not responding, he will trade a couple guys. Maurice might even bench a guy or two, might bring up a kid for a couple games to send a message. I think coaches know that those levers are there for them, right? He could bench. I mean, he benched for Hagee early on in the season or demoted him, right? And then he responded a bit, has scored more. So I don't think they're there yet. And Maurice doesn't want to lose the room. I think they know this team can win. They know that, they're going to add a little bit of scoring depth. And I think Cito still, he couldn't get Kane. I think he might still try to get Tarasenko. He might still try to get some of these other guys who can score that would make a bigger impact in the playoffs. And he'll move on from one or two defensemen. I mean, he'll have to do that and maximize some return there and try to get some back. But I think for now, the team just has to fucking figure it out, man. Like they got to score. They need better luck. I mean, they do. The expected goals thing is a combination of bad shooting and also just luck, man. I mean, we do get a lot of chances that like should go in. Like we've had rebounds right there that for whatever reason don't go in. We had 3 posts yesterday that should have gone in. I mean, the Kachuk one hit the inside of the post. Like it's just last year that was going in every game. And that is not like a skill thing. That's just bad luck. Like that puck could have gone, half an inch to the right and go in. So, the Stenlund one was floating and it should have come down inside the goal and it didn't, So it's, you also have to understand that this happens to teams, and, I rather we correct the defense and the structure that serves us well in the playoffs and eventually get scoring and have a game like the Edmonton game again, where it was both ways good play. Or what you don't want to be is like the Leafs right now. You don't want to be like maybe even Colorado, where like it does look shaky in ways that worry you for the playoffs, because your skill will hide that, but you will get beat by the Kings. You will get beat by Vegas, Dallas also looks kind of shaky to me. Like they're teams that don't. The Jets look a lot more sound this year, man. Like watch out for the Jets. Watch out for the Kings. They're not going to be the flashier teams in the regular season, but in the playoffs, with the system that the Jets have, the Kings have, and the Vegas has in the West, and then in the East, I still think Carolina can beat you, even if they're a struggle. If the goaltending can get figured out, the Rangers have a good, strong defensive system. They can frustrate you. I don't care about the flash in the pan teams, man, like the Devils and stuff. So yeah, I think that we just have to figure it out now and try to stay above water, and then get us closer to the trade deadline, and then let Cito cook, and he'll have to cook. He has a bunch of contracts decisions. He's going to be moving players, and we'll see the kids next year. There's no way we don't see the kids. The contracts are going to be expiring after that. If you don't use them next year, then you're wasting their contracts. So
yeah, and I think that's a big part.
Yeah, and that's the plan. I mean, that's why they had a good preseason. That's why they were played for 3 games early on. They're priming them. They're playing on the first line.
Yeah,
like there's a plan, obviously, and they know these kids can play. But anyway, it just sucks right now. Like it's such a funk, and they need to get out of their heads. They need to kind of loosen up and play their style. Don't fuck it. Turn it over at the blue line. That's what the Leafs do, man. That's not what we do. We don't do that bullshit. And yesterday was like incredibly sloppy, and also the lack of intensity. Once we allowed the first goal,
we're not really hitting teams. I mean, we are like we're hitting, but we're not making that impact. Once you're down 3-1 again, you have to go on the bench and just be like, all right, time to wake up, start hitting some bodies, and let's get into it. Let's just try to create one really good chance and try to score. They did create chances yesterday. Like it's not.
But that's
like,
the thing, man. We can create chances like every game. That's a sign of the team. So I'm just saying, like, you also can't blow that up, right? Like the numbers are there. We just got to figure it out. You got to do the tweaks. But you can also blow it up and just bring the kids, because that might screw your numbers, and that might screw your defensive numbers and stuff. So
yeah.
And the other thing that I thought of is we have to get out of the funk. We have to figure this out with the team. Maurice got to figure out what he has. The underlying numbers are there, like still strong. That's not going to change. But what I think is obvious is that for these extensions, like who you keep and who you go, that's a very important question. Like that's an essential question. You're talking about a lot of money.
I think it makes sense why he's kind of, I guess, to counter my own argument a few minutes ago, it makes sense for Cito to just kind of hold on to the guys right now. He's holding on to everybody for closer to the deadline or closer to when he's ready to pull the trigger. And I'm sure if it keeps going this way a few more games, obviously we're not gonna not score for like forever. But if we're like win 1, lose 1, and we can't score consistently more than 2 goals or whatever, I do think that he's gonna pull the trigger at some point as soon as something's available, whatever he's looking for. And I think they kind of made the decision that the kids are gonna stay down there until the end of the season. It does make sense. I know they can't play in the playoffs right now. They're not ready for that. They're barely ready to play in the regular season against tough teams. And it's not that simple. You're bringing up 2 young guys that have to learn the system. So it's better to just do it in the off season, have them work with the assistant coaches on what the game plan is and what they need to do on the boards, all that stuff. You do have to coach certain things in the game. So I understand that part, and I'm not, again, like when I watch them play, like it's not like they look truly awful or anything like that. They do create, as just you can see the shots to the chest of the goalie. You can see the lack of speed on the shots. Montour has a really good shot. Forsling, I think Montour had like 2 one-timers yesterday that were pretty good. That's the kind of stuff you need. Just surprise the goalie, shoot it quick.
And those are not going in right now. I mean, they're getting locked there. They're not, we're not getting the tips. Like, again, I do think that it ebbs and flows. We see it in sports. We've been a bad luck team. We've had a lot of bad luck. I mean, we had that class yesterday, but that's ridiculous. We're not getting the tips. We're not getting those shots coming through, and some of them will go through. I mean, these guys are capable of doing that. We've seen them do it, and we did it last year. So, we don't have elite skill, like scoring skill, but it's not like we're this bad. Like, we're not this bad at scoring. And the chances speak to our ability to create them, which is actually the really hard part. Actually, in some ways, that is the hardest part, like creating all those chances and having great defensive numbers. Like, that speaks to trust and structure. And that will pay off. When those start going in, then you start to dominate a bit more. Then in the playoffs, you start to win some of those tight games when everybody's like, that's the thing Maurice got pissed about yesterday. It's like, that could have been a tight game, playoff game, good practice for us. He says, even if you lose that game and you play it well, that's a good loss. You learn from it and you don't get out of your own identity. But what we did is the worst thing. And so to me, he said they were feeling themselves out to Pittsburgh. They went on the trip, then they beat Columbus, and then they had the big comeback, the big rebound against the Edmonton. The team has been feeling themselves here or there, and then all of a sudden now they're kind of in mud, and they're trying to get themselves out of it, trying to play the old Panther style of rush. So yeah, we'll see, man. I think Vegas will be a good game for us because not only I expect guys to get up for that game, even that it's a rematch and everybody's going to be watching, and two, Vegas plays the kind of style where it is going to be a grind. They're going to hit you and you're going to hit them, and there's going to be a lot of scraps and fights, and there's going to be some of that. The kind of game we kind of like, and even if we lose, it might just be a good game for us to sort of remind ourselves, like my favorite game of the season, even though it got out of hand, it was a little bit exaggerated. I don't want that game to be every game. My favorite game of the season was the Senators game, because we not only scored and had skill and dominated and scored on the power play and did everything right and defended, but we fought, we cared, we showed up. Like, that's the kind of playoff game I want us to see us play. My favorite game of the season, it wasn't even the Edmonton game, where we have prettier goals and stuff. Like, so yeah, maybe the Vegas game is a good one. Get into it and then take a break and then come back fresh. And our schedule's much better the rest of the season against the East. We also don't do well against Western teams. Fucking, like, it's just every time a Western team comes through, we lose. I don't know what it is.
We've lost like 4 in a row against St. Louis, and
these are not even good
all the
teams.
West Coast teams own us, basically.
Well, we only see, I think, the Avalanche and Nashville coming through, I think, for the rest of the season from the West. And then we have that short trip that has Coyotes and St. Louis again on the road. Maybe we can punch them back. But yeah. And then we get Avalanche and Dallas, I think, on the road. But yeah, we only have 2 more. And then the rest is just Eastern teams, which, again, doesn't mean you're going to win. But at least we know them. We know how to beat them. And yeah, man, it's just we need some divisional games to get up for them, too. We haven't played a divisional game in a while, man. That's mentally, honestly, the guys just don't get up for some of these other games.
Yeah, we haven't played the Lightning.
Even like the Metropolitan as much. Like, we've been on the road, and and then we got these teams come in, Vegas coming in. Like, we're not playing anybody. So, and then that's the other good news, and why I think we haven't lost in the standings is these games we're not giving points to people that we're competing against for a playoff spot. Silver lining, and if this is the worst we're going to be this season in this funk, and we can hold on to our third spot for the next, even if we lose on Saturday, we can hold on into next week after the holidays. Not the worst spot to be in. So just trying to be positive, and yeah, I can't wait for the day that Cousins is no longer on the team, and that it's not just a bunch of Gadjevits and Lawrence out back there. Like, one of them is nice, but then we got like a Sourdif or a little bit more of a skill player. And Lomberg's got to get going, man. Fucking score, bro. You can score. So
yeah, our third line has not been good this year. Our fourth line,
we're missing Lundy. Like, it's so funny, the skill. Like, we are actually missing Lundy. So it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, you at least they're familiar with each other on that third line, and Gadjevich too, because our fourth line becomes a little bit better. And Lundy
plays responsible two-way. Like, he wouldn't probably have been as
and that's the trick. I think if the top 3 lines are responsible in defense, which they mostly are most games, you don't want to get beat up the way you did 4-0 back-to-back on the road, but you kind of take it in stride, learning lesson. Those road trips are tough, and you kind of move on. Yeah, well, they're not gonna overreact. They're barely gonna react. I think Maurice might shuffle the lines, and hopefully Lundell is back. He should be back. Because otherwise you might just get a repeat. It's normal for the top line to kind of regress a little bit. They've been carrying the team honestly for almost the whole start of the season, and having Ekblad and Montour back does kind of change the defensive mindset a little bit. I think OEL, Mikola, all those guys were pinching in a little bit more. Mikola was very involved in the offense, and now he's kind of sitting back, letting Montour do that, which, it's just what the coaches tell him to do. All those little details matter, defensive scoring.
Yeah, and those guys will get going, and then because the answer is not to get Mikola and OEL to play like top minutes again. Those guys are not going to win you in the playoffs. That's the top player. So you got to stick with that. You got to stay with Montour, and they need to figure it out. And then and either they do or they don't, and you don't resign Montour. You're also learning. Can you trust these guys long term? So
yeah. They'll need a larger sample size on some of these guys. I think there's been enough of a sample size on the offense not working during the season. And you can win like this in the playoffs.
They need a scoring winger. They need a scoring winger, and they need to move on from Cousins. Those two things are very, very obvious to the team, I'm sure. They look at their numbers every day, and they have their internal numbers. So, they know what's up, man.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Panthers play the Golden Knights on Saturday, like we mentioned, 3 p.m. Looking forward to that one tomorrow. And then we get a nice little Christmas break, just in 3 days. And then we play the Lightning, and we kind of go back into it in January. We need to have a really good month in January just to kind of stay up there. Yeah. And we'll see how it goes. Anything else you want to add?
No, man. Let's see where we are next week. We have only a couple of games to review next week, but we'll see.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace.